Hey guys, it's David Walker here, and today I want to talk to you about the swim jig. Now everybody's familiar with jigs and you hear about the swim jig, but really what is a swim jig? And it's really just that simple. It's a way you're fishing that bait. As far as the jig itself goes, there's not a lot of differences between a regular flipping jig and a swim jig, but the most obvious one is the eye. You want that eye to be in that vertical position, and what it does is it causes that streamlined profile. You want everything to be streamlined because what you're going to be doing with this is swimming it, and by swimming it I mean you're going to cast it out, make long retrieves with it, long cast with it, and retrieve it back, and it's going to come through that cover. So you want it to be very snag free. One thing that I like to do when I take a brand new jig out of the package is with the weed guard, I'm going to cut it short. What I do is I cut it off, and usually I'll cut it at a horizontal to the same way. I won't cut it straight off the way it comes in the package. I'll cut it across horizontally, and to check to make sure you haven't cut off too much, push it down, and as long as those points of that weed guard are going past the point of the hook, then that's the position you want to cut it in. So depending on how long that hook is, use that hook point to measure where you're going to cut that weed guard off. The next thing I'm going to do to it is generally I'm going to shorten this skirt. Because with a swim jig, you've got a trailer on the back that's creating the action. So I don't want those skirts to get in the way of the tail of the action back there. So what I'll do is I'll cut it just shy of where the hook turns around, as you can see. If you cut it once, you can cut it again if it's a little too long. If you cut it too short the first time, you got to get another jig out. Now as far as trailers go, there's a variety of trailers, but my favorite two are either the diesel minnow or the turbo craws. And generally I pair the diesel minnow with more of the shad colors, and I like the turbo craws with more of the crawfish, more or less a bluegill looking color. And I'll match them up. There's a lot of different varieties, and there's really no set example of how to make sure you got the right jig with the right trailer. The best way is to throw it in the water and take a look at it. When it looks good to you, it's probably going to look good to the fish as well. So when it comes to a swim jig, remember this tail back here is going to be doing most of the action for you. So remember, just throw it out, wind it back in, make long cast. Almost always use braided line, because generally when I'm fishing a swim jig, it's around some type of vegetation, whether it be lily pads or grass or hydrilla, whatever it might be. So you're going to be reeling it through there, and that's really what's key, is reeling it into something, making that bait deflect off of things. Just like when you're crankbait fishing or when you're fishing a worm, whatever it might be, when that lure changes direction, that's generally when you get your bite. Same goes with the swim jig. As you're reeling it through that cover, try to reel it right into things. Throw it past the cover. Try to get it to run into that stuff, because when that lure hits that and deflects off, usually that's when you'll get the bite. So it's really a fun way. It's a great way to cover a lot of water. This is why it's one of my favorite baits. Making a living fishing, I've got to use tools that are very versatile. And for me, a swim jig is something I can use all over the country in a variety of different conditions. So check it out right here. We got the Project Z Swim Jigs, variety of colors. I'm sure you'll find one and make it your favorite.